Hi, everyone. Good afternoon from the Northwoods, the very cold Northwoods of Wisconsin. Hope you're having a great Saturday before Valentine's Day. I have a very special guest in the studio, Cindi Sansone-Braff, who is a playwright, an author, a psychic, and a relationship expert. And how perfect with the timing of tomorrow being our Valentine's Day on Sunday. So if you are in a relationship, not in a relationship, thinking about relationships, somewhere in between, this is the show for you because we've got an amazing amount of good information for you. And it's really interesting. A lot of us, I think love is just kind of like life. It happens. But it happens right when the right thinking precedes that. And so we're going to talk to Cindi about how to get in that place of thinking our way into the best love. The book is entitled "Grant Me a Higher Love," and the subtitle is
It's a big one.
it's a big one, right? How to go from the relationship to hell to one that's heaven sent. And a lot of us have that story, don't we? The
Oh, yeah.
relationship from hell.
I
Yeah.
call it the cellmate relationships.
The
The toxic.
cellmate. I love that term in the book. So, I guess let's start from the beginning. What inspired you to write this book? What was the critical mass that you got to that you said, I've got to write this book?
Well, I was been a psychic probably around since 1995. And this book I wrote from 2004 to 2008. It did take a long time to write. And, my own varied relationships from cellmates to soulmates. And when I was very young, I had a number of soulmates. We have more than one soulmate. I had no idea the universe was kind of showing me all kinds of relationships. So by the time I wrote this book, I had experienced many levels of love. And doing thousands of tarot card readings, most people come to psychics for relationship advice. They come for other stuff too. But I would say 90% is dealing with some kind of relationship, love, child, family. And I was working in a little cafe doing readings once a week. And the woman who ran the cafe one day said to me, Cindi, I don't listen to your readings, but every once in a while I hear like this ladder of love that you're saying and the stuff that you're talking about, cellmates, soulmates. You really have to write that. You realize that you're
Hmm.
supposed to be writing a book about that? And the bell went off in my head that, she was pretty intuitive and psychic herself that, yeah, if I were to die and all this information that's been channeled to me, and if I don't write this down and codify it, it's going to be lost pretty much.
Hmm.
Gone.
Hmm.
And so I began this enormous task, and it's a really big book. I'll show you. It's a really big book. Okay.
It is a big book.
And I used to say it's a big book, love's a big topic,
Hmm.
and so I wrote it and I had no idea it was this big because I had just gone into a computer from doing word processing. And, I had no idea that 300 pages in typing is going to be almost 600 pages in a book. And I
Hmm.
was wondering why this is taking me so long.
Hmm.
But during the time I wrote it, remember, it took 4 years. As I would write each of these steps, because it's steps toward a higher love. For instance, when I wrote the commitment phobia, now back in 2006, I think I was writing that part. I had no idea that commitment phobia would be such a major problem in the next following decades. Commitment
Hmm.
phobia is a massive problem now. And when I wrote that, I felt the presence of all these angels and spirit guides. And I had bought this book at the library for about, I think it was a quarter. And it was called He's Scared, She's Scared. And I never even looked at it. And, you buy these books, you don't read them. And, all of a sudden my guide said, you got to read that book. And as I
Hmm.
began to read it, it was about commitment phobia. All the bells were going off. And
Hmm.
for the next, say, 3 months, every person who came to my house for a reading was some form of commitment phobic or suffering from
Hmm.
someone who ran away because they're a commitment phobic.
Okay.
So it was like they really got me to see this. Now, if you look at the world now, no one wants to commit. And even COVID's a way of shutting down the world. So it's sort of God's message. If you're all alone in a foxhole, maybe it would have been nice to have been with a lover or a
Right.
soulmate. Maybe
Right.
you shouldn't have said, well, next year I'll find love next month. So
Hmm.
that's how it was, step by step by step. And if I missed a step, there was something missing. I would hear, you got, this is something you have to write about. And then they would just keep sending me people with that issue. So it was sort of the universe and me writing this book. And if you look in it, there's a million references to other books because I read a lot of books. I wanted to give, complete credit that this really helped me. And if you want to know more about the topic, read that book. But it's
Hmm.
researched, it's channeled, and it's from my life.
Hmm. Okay. Cindi, I think there's a little feedback on your side. Is there a second audio device? Is there a second thing on?
Yes. Do you want me to? I
Well,
don't.
I don't hear it now. I don't hear it now. It's,
So
it's, it's okay now. So, you mentioned something about commitment. I wasn't going to ask this, but since you brought it up, we know that you have this term now called ghosting, right?
oh yeah.
And it really started off in relationships,
Absolutely.
Tinder and right, people like they're texting and it's hot and it's going and then it's gone, right? It's done or it's
Right.
very cool. And this phenomenon has now transferred to the workplace where people are ghosting their jobs. And what's that all about? What is the commitment phobia and the ghosting? What is that about?
I love the way that you equated it to work. Okay, because I've been noticing that in the last few years that the ghosting that took place personally, which
Mm-hmm.
meant because of online dating, if I don't like you, I just block you, ghost you, don't answer you. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
to say to you why I don't want to see you, why,
Right.
even just say I'm not ready for commitment. And
Right.
so it was bad enough when it just was in personal relationships. But my clients who are looking for jobs are astronomically upset by going to 5 interviews or 7 interviews. People just don't have 1 or 2 interviews now. And
Right.
now that they're on Zoom, it may be 7 of them. Okay. You do 7 interviews and the person doesn't take a minute to email you or message you and tell you you didn't get a job.
Right.
These people are waiting for 2 weeks thinking, well, I got it. I think I did great on the interview. And then they're devastated because they didn't get the common courtesy to
Right.
say you didn't get it. Now, I'm old enough to remember we used to have to type every letter, cover
That's
letter.
right.
Remember how it
I
was really
remember that.
hard, right?
Yeah.
It was really hard because if there was a mistake, you had to retype it. You had to get nice
Absolutely.
stationery. You had to mail it. And you would get a response, usually a letter back
Hmm.
saying, thank you for applying. You didn't get the job. Good luck on your search. So that
Hmm.
took a lot more effort than just to write, just to tell somebody, look, I'm sorry you didn't get the job. Good luck. So the ghosting to me is always a sign of a narcissistic world.
Mm.
Narcissists do that. I couldn't do that to someone. Could you just ghost somebody? Just,
Oh,
just
no, no, no. I think and I teach my students this even for English. It just thank you, right? Thank you for following up. Wish you the best. Sorry it didn't work out. Whatever it is, that's easy.
something. And the ghosting is probably where I have made most of my money in readings for people. They come, they had a wonderful relationship, they thought it was wonderful. And
Hmm.
then all of a sudden the person disappears.
Right.
That's it. And,
Right.
that gives you no closure. That
No.
makes you wonder, did the person die? I mean, what happened to them? I mean, it leaves them with such a hole in their heart.
Right.
And if any of our listeners are ghosters, because I think it's very common now, I think it's very, very, very common.
Right.
Know that it's karmically incorrect to do ghost. If you ghost someone, karma will get you back some way or another with a
Right.
ghosting that will devastate you.
That's
Okay.
right.
It's really bad to do. And if you're just messed up in your head or you just can't do this, just say to the person, look, you're probably the love of my life. I'm too screwed up to do this. I'm sorry.
Mm.
And karmically, the universe will hear you weren't ready for a soulmate or a relationship then, but they'll hear that you are wanting one later on. Okay. So
Mhm.
if you just ghost and disappear and run, you're not going to be granted any kind of higher loving for a very long time. You're going to get the
Mhm.
consequences of it. But
Mhm.
I believe you have to be narcissistic to ghost. I could never do to someone what I didn't want done to me. It would just
Mhm.
hurt me and disturb me and
I agree.
bother me.
I agree.
Okay. So if you're doing this thing because it's been done to you, and that's what's happening, people say, well, they do it to me, so I'm just going to do it to everybody else.
Right.
Was that how we were raised or taught that, it's been done to you, so then you could do it to other people?
Right.
So really think about, if you're doing it, are you a coward? Are you too afraid to say something? I mean, sometimes nice people ghost, I think, because they don't want to witness someone's pain. I'll even
Mhm.
give them that credit. They don't want to see someone's face or feel bad, but then stop casually dating, maybe, because, if you're a nice person and people tend to maybe fall in love with you because you're a nice person, and you don't like to hurt people, then maybe casual dating isn't for you. Because if you can't say to someone, this isn't working or it's not for me. But the ghosting is a phenomena across this country in every aspect, every way. In business, people just ghost you too. I don't know if you're trying to get someone to fix your refrigerator,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they just ghost you. They don't answer you.
That's
Like,
right.
tell me you're too busy, that you
That's
don't
right.
want my job.
That's so true. I've encountered that. That's exactly right. Like I've called, I left a message, and just no response. I'm like, I hope you have a lot of business. That's great, but it's just courtesy.
Just common courtesy
Yeah.
not to do this. So there are all kinds of dating terms that I've learned as a dating expert in the last decade. And they are, haunted house. What's a haunted house? Well, you go to an event and there's one or more people that you've ghosted or ghosted you. So now you're in a haunted house.
That's
There's
interesting.
orbiting, which means the person ghosted you or doesn't answer your text, and yet they follow your social media.
Oh
Okay.
my goodness.
There's
Oh, I've heard about this. Yes.
there's
Uh,
breadcrumbing, which means
oh, yeah.
they send you a little text to make sure they still got you.
Right.
So
Right.
after a while, I stopped trying to learn what all the definitions of these meant. My translation is they're a narcissist.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Because nice people don't do all these things
That's right.
to other people.
That's
And
right.
the fact that we have terms for this,
Eh,
that this is like, that means a lot. A term doesn't come out unless a lot of people are doing this. So
That's right.
that's the frightening part. How many people actually ghost, orbit, and do all of this? And trying to explain to my clients, if someone's orbiting you, it does reveal that they're a narcissist, that they don't want to let you go and they want to still be in your head.
Hmm.
Because every time you see them like a post, they're in your head again.
That's
And
right.
so, and then
That's
the
exactly right.
stalkingness that people do, like they keep stalking you or you're stalking them. It's got to stop because it's not healthy.
No,
It's not healthy.
it's not healthy at all. Do you think that has technology made this easier, and has it even created this phenomenon?
I think it's made it easier, okay, because people can be very sneaky.
Hmm.
They can just ghost and disappear. Remember in the days when there was one phone in a household?
Yeah, and you
You couldn't
rotary
be
dial and
you couldn't
you,
be like doing sneaky stuff because
no,
everybody know what you're up to.
that's
Okay.
right.
You couldn't do this back and forth
Like
toxic
the
relationship
texting.
things for years because your
Mhm.
father would pick up the phone and say to the guy, don't call my daughter, and
Right,
hang
right,
up. Okay.
right,
Your whole family would be saying, you're talking to him again. What's the matter
right.
with
He's
you?
driving by the house again.
Right. They
Stop
would
it.
all
Yeah,
see it and know it.
that's
So
right.
a lot of these stalky and abusive things, even that whole what I call textual abuse that I even wrote a play about, like just thinking that you can be so nasty in a text. Like you wouldn't say those things to
In
someone.
person. That's right.
You just and texting becomes this like it's like a monster. I've seen it happen to me with an abusive client who just it's 11 o'clock in the morning. I have no idea she's drunk. Okay. And I'm working all day and all day she's texting me these. And if I wouldn't answer, I mean, I'm in a reading. I don't pick up a phone.
No.
You're ghosting me. You're like, it got nastier and nastier. And I just kept taking the higher road and answering something nice. But
Hmm. It
by
doesn't
10
matter.
hours of this, I felt like I wanted to just go off on her. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And I realized I have to block her. That's
Right.
all. I have to
That's right.
block her number. Now I'm a public figure. If I just block your number on my cell phone, well, you could go through my you find my phone number, you
The
could find me
website, the
my
whatever.
website. There's a million ways you could get me. Okay. But I don't think most people don't realize you're blocked right away. So I think she probably did about 3,000 more nasty things that I never got to see. But after that, I wrote textual abuse. I was so like, I saw how it made me like want to be nasty.
Right.
I mean, I said, I just wanted to ream her and say all kinds of stuff that were truthful, but nasty in a
Mhm.
way that I just said, this is a dangerous thing to do, texting back and
And
forth.
it happens on social media, right?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody, damns you with faint praise or kind of zings you with a little something, and you're like, "Oh, I want to get him back," and then where does that go? It
Nowhere.
ultimately vortexes, and so it's almost never good. So we
So,
have
yes,
this, we have
social media is making it worse
and
by far.
social media is making it worse, and that's why I was curious when you talked about the narcissism and the stalking and the orbiting. It would have been not that it didn't exist in our time, but or 50 years
Oh,
ago,
yeah.
whatever, but that it was harder to pull off.
I mean, I
So
had it happen to me 40 years ago.
yeah.
And but the person wouldn't answer their phone. I actually brought my friends with me because I thought something happened to him. And we're like walking around the house to see if, he's alive. And then we see him hiding in the basement. So, yeah, and ghosting because someone did it to me 40 years ago, stuck as being like not a good thing to do to people. But,
So this is like the lowest ladder on the ladder of love. This
oh,
is
yeah.
and
Cellmate, toxic, narcissistic is a rung above. I call it the interchangeable love or narcissistic rung. It's one rung above toxic. So if you're on Tinder, and that's another thing that's allowed people to meet 400 people in a month and think there's 400 better people for them. And
mhm.
they just keep one person after another, interchangeable love. And it goes from narcissism to toxic love very quickly. Love goes down a ladder very quickly. Okay. Soulmate can go down to toxic as well. Narcissistic can't become soulmate. The funny thing about the ladder of love is soulmate's at the top. Okay. It can go down, but lower levels can't go up. Okay. It's just that's the level it is. And it's always going to be that level. So it's interesting to see how fast love goes down the ladder of love now. It's shocking.
Mhm.
It used to take people a little longer. 3 months, I see people go from soulmate to toxic. It's horrifying how fast it goes.
So
And it's
the
not just romantic love, it's our family members. We have
Sure.
soulmate connections with certain people, and then all of a sudden it's toxic as anything. And
Mhm.
sometimes we don't even know how it got that way. It happens very quickly going down. So the
Let
ladder of love's a good measurement of where your love is or where it
love.
started and
Okay.
where the kind of like a stock chart. It's going up and down. Oftentimes we want to bring it back up to soulmate. And pretty much I have to determine if it's possible to bring it back up. If a person's what I call an unfixable, which is a manipulative, judgmental, not accountable for their behaviors kind of a person,
Mhm.
it's going to be almost impossible to bring it back up to soulmate because we can't fix that person.
Right.
So again, it's the hardest lesson and message to deliver in a reading is that I can't fix this. The best it's going to be is mediocre now. You're going to shut up for the next 20 years and drop dead of cancer because you're going to stuff down anger and it's going to kill you. Maybe you'll get a stroke, you'll blow your brains out, but you're going to get out of this through death if you
Right.
can't get out of it through walking away. So it takes people sometimes years to break away from those toxic loves, and it's horrifying to watch. But with any luck at all, I get them out of it in without drama and trauma. I'm an advocate of you don't have to hate somebody to leave them.
Right.
Don't make it nasty. It's not working. Just
Okay.
righteous anger. I loved you, but you've done A, B, C, D. I've warned you 3,000 times, and now enough is enough. And, that's the most important thing. You don't have to hate somebody to leave them.
That's a great point. And thinking about that ladder of love, which is something you discuss in Grant Me a Higher Love. Um, uh, why do you think thinking about love in terms of a ladder, how does that help the reader? How does that help the people you work with?
I think it helps them because once you understand this concept, you begin to look at every relationship you ever saw or witnessed. For instance, your parents. Maybe they got divorced and you've been judging them very, very harshly for the last 20 years because people tend to judge their parents way too harshly now. It's gone the other extreme from blindly honoring our parents, which was ridiculous, to now judging too harshly. So if I can point out that their parents were mediocre love to begin with, it was never a great love affair. It's like the old arranged marriages. When you're young, it's the right size, shape, color person. And maybe your parents were 22 when they met and they thought it was a great love. And then as time went on, maybe somebody cheated. And that will happen if it's not a great love affair. It's just
Sure.
it's inevitable. This is inevitable.
Sure.
And they've judged this. And I'll say, well, they were mediocre to begin with, and it could never be soulmate. And now they divorced and they showed you a better version of love. Perhaps they both found soulmates and you've seen it better. And oftentimes my clients are coming because they become their parents. They're cheating now. They're in, and I'll say, well, you judged your father pretty harshly. Now, your love, you thought you married at the level of love that your parents were, you thought they were soulmates, but they weren't. And yours wasn't either. It was mediocre. And now you're cheating. You've become your parents.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lesson in forgiveness when we become what we judge.
Right.
So understanding, was it mediocre to begin with? If someone comes in, as a couple and they want relationship guidance, and I have to figure out where were they on the ladder of love to begin with. So I'll ask them a few key questions, how you understand what a soulmate is. Did you have a recognition factor with this person when you first met them? You feel like you've always known them and it was very comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You have an instantaneous, without choosing to love this person, heart connection.
Mm-hmm.
Soul, did you understand yourself better? Did you have a mind connection? Did you love talking? Did you have a strong, strong body chemistry? Because soulmates have a very strong body chemistry, which is supposed to keep them from the temptations of the world, actually. So God is brilliant in giving that, sexual chemistry. And if they answer yes to those, we can determine they were once soulmates. They're not now. It might have gone all the way down to cellmate. The worst part, cellmate isn't even the worst, because if you're really so toxic, you might seek help. What's worse is if you drift apart mediocre. Everybody came first, the kids, work, and all of a sudden you're kind of mediocre. After 10 or 15 years, you become strangers. That's really hard to fix now. It's gone too far off the chart of soulmate.
Right.
And it's now mediocre. And perhaps it can never be brought back up to soulmate. There's always hope that we can do it. And so I try to strive at bringing it back up if the two people are willing to work at it again, put each other first, put a lot of the baggage behind them, learn to say what you mean what you say without being mean about it. Communication. Don't say to your lover what you wouldn't say to your best friend. Don't curse them out. Don't be mean. So I can give them tools to fix it if it's possible. But we have to determine, if it wasn't soulmate to begin with, I have to be honest with the couple. I can't fix this.
Okay.
The best it's going to be is mediocre. If you're happy with that, fine. But you're not going to make it soulmate, and you're going to crave something else or want something else. So, and those couples, I've gotten them to end it without drama and trauma, to be friends, and to realize it's not a failure. Not all relationships are meant to last forever. Let's get rid of that myth. Mostly they work in 5-year cycles. Every 5-year, 10-year. Notice 2020, the year of clear vision.
Right.
4 or 5-year cycles of someone's life. God wanted toxic relationships fixed, ended. You're in a foxhole. If it's bad, you got to end it. And a lot of relationships have fallen apart in 2020. It's just they weren't right to begin with.
And being confined in a space for
several
months
brought
that to a head. Yeah. Yeah, it turns out we really aren't compatible.
We are, and a lot of my clients have been calling because their relationships have really gone down the ladder of love during 2020. And I'll say to them, I know they're soulmates couples. I've known them. Did you kill each other? Nope. You're doing pretty good then. As long as you haven't killed each other, there's still hope here. It's not easy being in a foxhole. And especially my New York City clients, small apartments.
Oh, yeah.
Couples can't leave a 1-bedroom or a studio
apartment. Yeah.
I mean, come on. That is, where do you're doing the reading in the bathroom, like where do you go? So it's been a very eye-opening year for relationships, 2020.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you just mentioned, so we've talked about soulmates. And when you talked about tools, one of the great things about your book is there are so many tools within it. It's very interactive, right? You've got
Right.
quizzes, you've got people thinking about a vow to God, a prayer to say every day. I mean, I think we think about meditating every day and practicing gratitude every day, but how about, if you really want to love a good love, right? Practicing a vow to God every day about what, I want that higher, ready for the higher love. I love you. I love me. I'm open for this. So there's so many tools in this book.
It's
Uh,
meant to be a book that takes probably a year or longer to go from beginning to end. And, it's a book you could start anywhere if you wanted to. If you're having issues with jealousy, there's a whole step on jealousy. You might want to jump forward to that and, figure out that. Some of it may not be pertaining to you at a particular time, and you'll go back and it'll have meaning to you. But it's supposed to be a book that you don't just read.
mhm.
It's a lot, I'm a playwright. Playwrights are a very economical system of
Oh,
writing.
yeah.
And my book is written extremely economically. So one page in that book might be like 10 other pages of someone else's book.
Hmm.
So one page might take you 2 days to get through, to read, to think about, and you're going to be guided when you're reading this book. It was promised to me, and the title was not my choosing at first, Grant Me a Higher Love. It was The Ladder of Love. And one day Spirit said, that's not the title. And I said, well, that's the title I know. So I'm going to take a nap. And when I wake up, if you got a better title, like, give it to me. So I woke up with the words, Grant Me a Higher Love. And realizing that that's a prayer. You don't even have to read the book. You just say the title.
Hmm.
And you have just put it out to the universe
Right.
that you want a higher love. Okay.
Right.
So once you open this book, and I love the book designer, it was not my design, but it looks like a Bible, and it's sort of
Hmm.
like kind of a Bible of love. And you, when you're reading it, spirit guides, your angels, dead people come and start tweaking your mind and start helping you with what you need to get helped with. So it isn't going to be just you reading that book. It's going to be a lot of angels or spirit guides who helped me write the book, and some of your own getting in your head and clearing it out. So little miracles happen when you read this book, and I'm not taking full credit for it. Yes, I worked 4 years, and yes, it was a daunting. I don't know if I'd ever do something like that again, or have them just have. I just don't know if I could do it, but it was a lot of angel spirit guides and really wanting love, because the true mission of that book is world peace, because
Mm.
soulmates teach peace, love, and joy to the world. Toxic love
Wow.
cellmates teach their children outright war. Mediocre or razor's edge mates teaches Cold War. There's no communication. So the real mission in that book, and the real mission of the universe in that book, is world peace, one soulmate couple at a time. Okay.
That
And
is a beautiful vision. And I was going to ask you about Razor's Edge and Toxin. So I love that. What you just said is a kind of the greater vision of the book.
meant to be. And understanding my, having been raised in a very dysfunctional childhood, where I saw my parents, who were soulmates once upon a time,
Mm-hmm.
all the way down to toxic, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes my mother just shutting up, going mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
Watching that and observing that, from the time I was born, made me have like insights into love that I probably would not have gotten had I just been raised happily ever after with soulmate couple. I mean, it really
Mm-hmm.
showed me. And they were together 64 years until they died 6 months within each other. So it
Mm-hmm.
was a long-term relationship for me to observe and see and watch it go up and down a ladder,
Mm-hmm.
but never really go back to soulmate ever again. Kind of went to this mediocre, where they sort of lived
Acceptable. Yeah.
acceptable, comfortable, but never again. There were glimpses of seeing the soulmate. back, when my mom was dying and my father was, trying to take care of her. There were glimpses of it that I saw. Absolutely.
Mhm.
But did I see them heal their issues with each other? Because the problem with soulmate love is it's not an easy love. It demands that you heal your childhood issues. And if
Mm,
you've done no healing and you're brought a soulmate, all of this stuff is going to come up.
right.
And you're going to look and think, oh, I was fine before you came into my life. No, you weren't. You had a band aid on a carcinoma. And I have just brought all this forth. And most people will run away. That's commitment phobia. They'll say, I don't want to heal this. It's too much.
Right. Right.
And they'll run away. So if you don't want to heal issues, you can stay in toxic love, cellmate love. You rage behind closed doors with all your childhood rage. Boy, I knew that. Rage behind closed doors and look normal in the outside world. It serves a very big purpose. Sadly, there'd be more people gunning down strangers in a street if it were not for toxic love. They tend to keep their war zone between them. Sometimes it's separated by the police or a court or family members, but they tend not to go and gun down people in the street. Okay.
Hmm.
Mediocre love. You don't have to heal a lot of issues for mediocre love. Some of them, so you're kind to each other, perhaps, but no love demands healing issues the way that soulmate love demands it. It's That's why the book is supposed to have you heal as many issues as you can before that love comes, so that when the love comes, there's some issues, but not a tremendous amount that you can't cope
More
with or deal with.
sustainable.
Right.
What are the signs or the symptoms of a soulmate love starting to descend into a toxic relationship?
Well, it starts the moment you begin to talk to each other without respect. And remember, marriage is based on a very dysfunctional business arrangement of arranged marriages. It does not go back a million years. They're still rampant across the world. My Italian grandparents had an arranged marriage. They don't go back a million years. And in an arranged marriage, you didn't love the person. It was till death do us part. Your family would not take you back home. Women couldn't support themselves. So people learned to be really nasty. That was all they could do to get out their anger. It's just be nasty to each other
Right.
and
Right.
just be awful and be the worst version of a person with each other. And so that template bleeds down. And in 1945, when my father met my mother, they were the first generations that really could pick their own soulmates. World
Hmm.
War II just ended. You think my Italian grandparents were really thinking about who their kids are going to marry? They were glad they came back in one piece.
Right.
So all of a sudden, people met their soulmates and they tended to marry very quickly in those days. Maybe it wasn't meant to last forever, but they got married. And all of a sudden, people began to then go back to the dysfunction of their parents, talk nasty to each other. So you really have to work at the first time you start talking to nasty to each other is the first time you break that habit. It becomes a bad habit. Most of my clients, what they really need is for me to point out you're in a bad habit of talking nasty to each other. So we're going to break that habit. We're just going to stop that. If you
That's a great point. Malcolm Gladwell has written all these great books, and one of them I blinked. He could, some psychologists could put people in a room and watch just a minute of an exchange of a relationship, husband and wife, and they could predict with incredible accuracy how much longer that relationship was going to continue. And one of the signs he said they looked for was scorn. When one of the partners was scorning or mocking or rolling the eyes about something the other was saying, it was not long for this earth.
and you would not do that to your friends. So I always give simple tools. Do not speak to your lover any way that you would speak to your friend. As soon as you see yourself being toxic, you stop it. You just have a safe word, whatever it is for each other. And if you're in the height of anger, your safe word, say we'll come back in about 15 minutes. Let's take a little break. You go for a walk, you clear your head, you get something to eat because sometimes you're just hungry.
Right.
Just
Tired,
tired,
stress.
hungry. Just cool it down and come back.
Right.
What happens in relationships is they run what transactional analysis called an old tape. Transactional analysis is brilliant. It doesn't demand deep psychological counseling for years. It just says, look at your behavior. So you'll know when you're running an old tape of your parents' marriage. Now, remember, in a marriage or in a relationship, there's not just two people. There's your mom and dad, that person's mom and dad. If they're step parents, there's like 18 other people in that. Okay.
Pretty
So
crowded.
all of a sudden, you're you're having a fight, and you know it's an old tape because an hour into this fight, if you were to stop it, you'd say to the couple, "So what are you fighting about?" They'll go, I don't. So what started this fight? They don't remember.
No idea.
They don't remember what triggered it. Now, what triggered it was something that triggered a fight in their parents, and now they're just running old tape. And both, these kinds of fights are kind of typical. They're not, unusual. Like maybe it's a jealousy fight, or who spent too much money fight, or who's not disciplining the kids. They're kind of standard fights. And all of a sudden, you have just relived your parents' relationship in that moment, and you're not in the now. It's totally not in the now. So you have to stick with facts, which is the righteous anger. When you're having an argument, yesterday I asked you to do this and then you did this or whatever. Stick with the facts and stick in the now. And, no screaming or yelling, because funny enough, what Spirit has told me is they don't hear when we scream or yell on the other side. So when we're screaming and asking for help from the other side, they don't even hear it. It's a vibration they cannot hear. So it's just wasted words. Okay.
Wasted energy and words.
Okay, keep it. And really, people don't hear what we say screaming and yelling either. They just
shut down.
So saying it nicely, and those are the tools. They're really simple tools. It's not all that complicated. It's not all that hard, but it's really that we get in bad habits of interacting very poorly with people, very poorly.
You mentioned something about the tapes. And, I listen to like Dr. Joe Dispenza, right? The breaking the habit of being yourself. And
right.
What's amazing, and the messages that come back through him and multiple teachers, is how much is subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me, and you talk about the mirror, right, in the book, relationships, are they teaching us about our subconscious thinking? Are they teaching us about our about the tapes?
Exactly. They're bringing forth what's hidden. Okay. That's why not all relationships are meant to last. If you have to heal a particular jealousy issue or something, then that relationship might be the mirror of your jealousy. Okay. Then when you heal that issue, if you heal it, if you don't heal it and you just get really toxic and run away, then the next relationship will be
same issue. Yeah.
Okay. If you see a pattern of people over and over again in your life, you have not broken the pattern. Okay. When we heal the issue, God does not bring us that level of a soulmate or toxic love anymore. It's healed. And so now we get other lessons. So yeah, they are mirrors of our subconscious mind always. Okay. Telling us what we need to learn, what we need to heal. And it's frightening for people who have never been in a relationship. And when they get in one, they might have thought they were really peaceful, mellow people. And suddenly, they're 30 years old, they're in their first relationship, and they realize they are not mellow. They are not healed. There is a lot going on. So if you choose to run away from love or not have it in your life, you're really truncating the lessons that the universe wants to teach you. And, every relationship is there to teach us and for us to learn. We may learn quicker than others. So it's really, love is the key to healing our inner issues. Living alone is wonderful because you can feel peaceful all by yourself. There's nobody challenging you. There's nothing. And so we can have the illusion that we're a healed person. But really living intimately with other people, sharing with really reveals our unhealed issues.
Mm-hmm. This does come up in your plays about relationships, because I'm thinking of Kathy Clooney-Colucci. I'm just curious about when you say about healing, and I love this. I mean, you have some of the most interesting terminology and perspectives. So you talk about the transactional deadly triangle.
Right. Oh yeah.
So and then Kathy Clooney, right? She beginning of the play. She believes, well, it's it's transactional, right? And then she sees through Doc and, some of the others that real, love and like and agape and everything. There's more to the universe of love.
Right. It's not just what's in it for me, what's in it for you. It's more
Right.
transactional.
Right. And so
Not a
what
business
what is the
arrangement.
what is the transactional deadly triangle? This is also in the book
Okay,
Grant Me a Higher.
that's actually an extremely brilliant way that humans interact. They interact in this rescuer, persecutor, victim triangle, and it plays out. I bet you in a day, 10 times a day, if not more. Okay, and nice people, we tend to be the rescuers, so we don't think we're dysfunctional. Okay, we think
Right.
we're the rescuers.
Right.
It's great. Okay, we can be rescuers and we can be victims. We're not great at being the persecutor. But I'll give you an example, a very simple example. Say a woman asks her husband, "Do you want dinner?" It's a simple, straight question, and he curses her out for some reason, and then she curses him back. So here we are. She was going to maybe make dinner, be a rescuer. She thinks he's hungry, and then he's persecuting her, and then she starts crying for a minute because she feels like a victim, and then she screams back and persecutes him. Then maybe later he'll come back and offer to buy her dinner and rescue. So in a simple thing, we had rescuer, persecutor, victim, and it's the only way outside of this triangle is to answer questions straight. That's a simple thing to do. If your husband asks you, do you want dinner? Ask yes or no.
Right.
Don't throw back a loaded answer. That's what happens. They throw back a loaded. They know that they want to fight. So some people like fights. If you're depressed, you can't be depressed and angry at the same time. So you're waiting for a fight. Okay. You just want to be angry. Okay. So the person just asked you a question. Can I do your laundry? And you curse them out. That's like a load. And then the person curses you back. If someone throws the loaded grenade at you, you don't throw it back. You just diffuse it with a straight answer. Okay, I was going to do your laundry. I guess you don't want it done.
Right.
Simple. You ask simple questions and you answer it straight. That's not deep psychological counseling. That's just answering the question straight. And it's behavior modification. It works. And, that dysfunctional triangle is something we have to step outside of. Every time you try to rescue somebody, you end up being victimized by them. It invariably happens. And, how do you stop being a rescuer? You just know when it's your mess to clean up and not yours. The laws of karma, action, reaction. You screw up, you got to clean it up. It's not always my job to rescue and clean it up. So that deadly triangle, we watched our parents, all of us, do that 100 times in a day.
Sure.
All day long. That little petty bickering you hear in a car all day when you were driving with your parents? That was all the dysfunctional triangle going round and round and round of it. And once you're aware of it, you step outside of it. I'm glad you put it, because in the play, The Karma Bums, there's a lot of that dysfunctional triangle going on there.
Sure.
A lot of it. All across the board. Kathy keeps throwing the grenades at them, and sometimes Destiny will throw them back. Rita tried not to, but that's really what we've learned as human beings, to be extremely dysfunctional. These are subconscious patterns, by the way.
Absolutely. These are the tapes.
Right.
Right.
And once we bring the pattern forward, that's how readings heal people. I bring a pattern forward that they may have had the same toxic relationship 6 times in a row. And when I bring the pattern of it that goes back to mirroring their parents' marriage, breaks it. And they, 20 years of 6 bad relationships, that pattern is broken. But once, all you have to do is say the pattern, the person sees it. It's like bing, ding, ding.
Right.
How do we not see the obvious?
Right.
We don't see the obvious. That's what's really frightening. You think we would see it. So I try to point out, and the book is trying to point out all of this subconscious dysfunction, that once it's brought forth, the pattern is broken and you won't duplicate it. So that's the whole point of the book. It's supposed to clear subconscious mind as you're reading it.
We learn in school about, mathematics and science and language, but how we learn about love is through our parents, right? Or whoever the parental figure is, around us, or whatever modeling we see. There is no formal education in love. The book Grant Me a Higher Love says basically, let's take a look at that.
And it's not a mystery. That's
Right.
the thing about love. You know what they say, love is mysterious. It is science. It is not mysterious at all. That, and even, Amazon said that, they have World Joy Book said it was the most comprehensive study of love they'd ever seen. Okay. It's a science. It's patterns. It's not mysterious at all. Even our going after a particular type is our subconscious mind going after a
Right.
particular type that might be
Right.
our mother or father. Now, the funny part about it is every relationship we have to heal our mommy issues and our daddy issues. So you might be your mom in one relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The next relationship might be your dad in the relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
we keep flipping this coin of back and forth. So we have to kind of understand our parents better and also, see them as humans, not as this big monster that they loomed as children. That we
Mm-hmm.
saw them not as human beings for some reason. We just see them larger than life. To see them as flawed human beings,
Right.
and that helps us, realize. And unfortunately, the harsher you're going to judge your parents, the harsher you're going to get those lessons. So,
Mm-hmm.
learn to, forgive a little bit and, forgiveness is an important lesson. Forgive people, not their actions. So we don't keep going over this time and time
Right.
again.
Right.
But the science of love is really what I think, the book is about. It is a science and an art, of course, but there's the science of it.
Science and art, they can be both. I'm going to read something from the book Grant Me a Higher Love, from the section Relationships as Mirrors of Our Soul. Our lovers' relationships mirror the relationship we have with God. Consequently, if we both love and fear God, our romantic relationships will be love-hate ones,
Yeah.
reflecting this quality. If we view God as a distant, silent, or absent figure, we'll continually pick partners who reflect this image. On the other hand, if we know the true nature of God, which is pure love, our romantic relationships will be truly intimate, for they'll
Yes.
be based on the giving and receiving of conditional love. That's a really beautiful passage and thought.
Right. And again, a lot of this was channeled to me. Okay. It was when I'm writing it, they would just put certain thoughts in my head or awarenesses in my head. Of course, they have to use my skills as a writer. They have to use my mind. Like when you channel, they have to use my knowledge, my mind, what I've learned, my life. But then they would say, this is an important concept because a lot of us, were raised to fear God and to fear parents and to fear. So everything is, love or fear. So the more that we can come to this love based understanding of God, we become understanding that we're going to bring out that loving side of people. And that's what soulmate love is meant to do. It is meant to bring out the best in us.
Mm-hmm.
Toxic love brings out the worst in us. Okay. And mediocre love brings nothing out. It's just nothing. It's
It's
so,
just, yeah,
and
it's
again,
just
if
there.
if you understand that toxic love serves a purpose, you won't judge other people so much who might be in the throngs of that. You can help them and guide them, but sometimes they need to get through that. They need to understand what is that mirroring in their life, and if they don't go through that toxic love affair and go through it completely, where they kind of figure out, why am I in this? What is my part in making this? And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I remember
Right.
staying too long in relationships because I wasn't healed, and I realized until I can respond properly to that person, regardless of what they're doing to me, I'm just going to bring that to another relationship.
Right. Right.
I haven't healed anything. When I can learn how to say what I mean without being mean about it, when I learn to not have people push my crazy buttons, then I'm healed. So if you're in a relationship and it's toxic and you just leave it without realizing the part that you played in that, pretty
You
quickly your next relationship's going to deteriorate again. And
look like the place you just left.
that's why you see people married 6 times, same things over and over, same war zone. And the level that we leave a love is usually the level we'll be offered the next love. So if you leave it toxic
Mm-hmm.
without bringing it up somehow to some sense of not trauma and drama, you're going to just get another toxic love affair.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Mm-hmm.
always want to end it from your soul, which means this is not serving my higher good or your higher good.
Mm-hmm.
And leave in a loving way. This is an act of love, me leaving. Self love, self preservation, love for you. And instead of seeing it as an act of hate,
Mm-hmm.
as an act of love, you will then go up the ladder of love. And remember, you're granted a higher love. It comes from God, it comes from someone who died. We're granted the level of love we can handle at the time. And when people say, "Oh, I'm not ready for love," and it came and they run away with their commitment phobia. Oh, I have to. This has to come first. That I'm like, God knows what time it's on the planet. If He brought you love, it was the perfect time. If you
Mm-hmm.
run away from that love, it may be years, decades before you'll be granted another higher love. You'll get a mediocre love. You go on Tinder, you'll get a million Tinderellas if that's what you're looking for, but you're not going to get a higher love. So it's really important to kind of understand this ladder of love, the timing of love, your part in the destruction of it. Um, and if your own anger issues, if every relationship turns angry, you got to put that mirror on you. Are you an angry person? Do you have
Right.
issues you need to deal with and start
Right.
dealing with them
Right.
sooner than later?
Right. And I love that you in the book class, you give so much framework to this experience. So when a person has endured or experienced a toxic relationship and they come into the next relationship and they say, I've been hurt, I've been abandoned, I've been left, I've been divorced, I've been brutalized. What is the message there when a new relationship is started with that dialogue or that
I
monologue?
love that you brought that up because I called them wound mates, WOUND, wound
Right.
mates.
Right.
Okay. You don't want to be a wound mate to somebody. There's a point where you want to heal your issues. And that over the course of your relationship with someone, you might mention this is what happened, but it's healed. So it's kind of a 15-minute, talk about something you learned from a higher place. It's not talking about everyone abandons you, everyone hurts you. That's your
Right.
story. Like everybody's got a story. Like let go of that story. Like rewrite a new story. Why do you have to
Right.
keep telling that same story over and over again? And when people don't get over someone cheated on them and blah blah. And sometimes I have to say, well, was your marriage good? No. Were you making love to each other? No. So how did you even look at the person as cheating? The relationship was horrible. You weren't making love. You weren't communicating. So was that person?
Right.
Take some responsibility that not everybody's going to stay in a toxic love where there's no making love and there's no communication. Maybe that was your level that you saw with your parents and they took that crap for 50 years. But maybe the other person said, I want something better. I don't want that anymore. So
That's right.
it's really don't start talking this story, heal it so that of course we have to tell things so people have an overview of how we became who we are, but I'm with my husband now 12 years. I don't think he knows very much about my dysfunctional marriage or childhood or
Mhm.
any of it because it was healed at that point.
Right.
Maybe
Right.
once in a while I'll bring up a story about something and something that's just relevant to what's going on and
Hmm.
something. But I didn't sit there and talk about it for a
Right.
week. It wasn't necessary to talk about it. It's healed. So
Hmm.
keep talking your story. You haven't healed your story. And that story becomes reinforcing and reinforces your subconscious
Right.
mind. So watch your words. Be careful about what you're giving attention to.
That's right. That's right. It's the stuff of the blues and country, western and opera, but it's not really the good stuff of relationships.
No,
Um,
drama
and
before it plays. We want passion without drama. Okay. We do
right.
not want drama in our relationships. Okay. That is when love goes up and down. It's all people really mistake that. And I'll have clients that have a peaceful soulmate relationship and they come and they think, Well, there's something wrong with the relationship. And I go, why? Because it's not dramatic and drama every day like you had with your toxic one. Or every day he's in jail, he's beating you up, he's stoned, because don't mistake peace. True love is peaceful. It is not drama. And if you have a heavy mission in this earth, I have a hard job to do. You have a hard job. I can't have drama every day with my husband. I can't have that. We don't fight. We're peaceful. We eat dinner. We have a good time. I don't have time for all this drama. I wouldn't be able to do my job. So that the younger generations have a lot of drama in their relationships. That's what I'm noticing. And that I have to really clarify them. Not that is not passion. That is dysfunction. So I
Let's
love the way you
let's
use the
talk
word.
about yeah, let's talk about that a little because I think it's important. Um, you meet a guy, right, or a woman, and the there's a tempo that starts picking up, and he shows up with flowers, and it feels a little stocky, but it's kind of enthralling, right? And he's kind of hitting you up a lot, and the sex is intense, but then it starts to feel like this is like smothering, right? Because you start to express an opinion, or you're out one night and he punishes you a little bit by cold shouldering you the next day. So that the passion, I think some people might say, so it feels like love to me because it's so intense.
Right.
And what's wrong with that?
Right. And again, true soulmate love has a lot of passion. That's true. But again, you see sometimes quickly the dysfunctions that come in and work their way into it. And when someone then gives you the cold shoulder, that means they're pulling away from loving you. They're doing that. I love you conditionally if you do what I want, and that all of
Hmm.
a sudden sets in that pattern of fear. I'm going to lose your love if I don't do everything you tell me. And that's what we saw a lot in our growing up years or in a lot of relationships. But you can't withhold love or punish people because they need their space. So love needs space. Okay, you have to give each other space. So if someone is so jealous, and sometimes jealousy will ruin a relationship. Jealousy has nothing to do with love, by the way. You could feel very jealous after you've left your ex who you hate. That doesn't mean you love that person. Jealousy is of the ego. It's of I'm replaced and all of that. But this conditional loving is something we have to work on. Don't punish people or give them the cold shoulder because they don't agree with everything you're saying. And that's what ruins love after a while, because it erodes at it. It just keeps eroding, that first chiseling at the love, and then it chisels and chisels until after a while there's not much left. But
Right.
that's really loving conditionally. And
Right.
unconditional love doesn't mean you abuse me and I love you. Okay. That's not unconditional love. Okay. That is not unconditional love is a message. And if someone abuses that message, then you leave them because you're not going to enable them. But that doesn't mean you didn't love them unconditionally. It just meant, it doesn't mean you abuse me. Some people really think if you love them unconditionally, you can be abused. That's a
That's not
mistake.
what that means.
No.
Unconditionally means, right, you need some space, you take the space, and I'm okay with that.
Right. Exactly.
Because I need some space, and I want, you're okay with that. And it's so conditional versus unconditional. People might say, well, that's great in theory. And you do talk about conditional versus well, that's really great in theory, unconditional love, but how do I make that work?
It's again practice, behavior modification. It's relearning. The whole book is about we have learned dysfunction from the day we're born.
Yeah.
It's a very dysfunctional world. If 2020 proved that, in a political environment in every way, we are filled with dysfunction everywhere. You just see it. So we have to unlearn this. And it's conditioning our brains. It's being aware that what we're doing is dysfunctional. It's being aware that this is a pattern of behavior that I need to break. It doesn't happen in a minute, and we'll fall back in bad patterns of behavior, particularly if we're tired. But it's overall realizing this is a dysfunctional pattern of behaviors. And there's always those people that are going to push our crazy buttons. That's because they programmed them for us. Okay. Our family's programmed dysfunction. So we can be healed for 20 years. We walk back in the house and in 2 minutes they pushed all our crazy buttons.
Right.
And 20 years of therapy down the line because they know what to push. So we have to be aware of people that are pushing our crazy buttons. Okay. And if
That's
we
right.
feel them pushing us, we have to step back a little bit, you know, reevaluate, maybe just be quiet for a little bit. Think about how they did this to us before reacting in our old pattern of rescue or persecute a victim, because that's what we'll do right away. We'll
Right.
go right in. They pushed our buttons. They persecuted us. We're playing victim. Then we're persecuting back. And really, dysfunction, there's no rescuer other than an outside party, which is the police usually. Okay. There's nobody that steps in to rescue. Okay. But that's the crazy buttons that we can push. And we're all filled with dysfunction.
Sure.
It's just, every time you think you're healed, there's another layer that someone reveals, whether it's at work or just a trigger in a store. Someone just says something to you wrong, and all of a sudden it just triggered something in you. So we have to be careful of the triggering, the buttons and the triggers, because that's when we really are dysfunctional. And
And
if somebody triggers you, think about it later. Why did that
why?
happen?
Why did I go there? Yeah. And life is unpredictable.
Oh
And
yeah.
so there's stresses, there's health issues, there's, financial stresses, and how are you going to roll with that? And what does that reveal about you and your partnership?
Right. And just remember that everybody is struggling,
Right.
and everybody's, dealing with the same thing. So sometimes we can go a little higher, like grant me a higher love. The word higher, sometimes go higher if someone's going lower at that moment. You don't have to go to that level. You can maybe turn around and say, oh, what can I do to help you? Like, okay,
Right.
what's going on? What can I do to help you? That can stop just smiling at someone when they're having a tirade and say, what can I do to help you?
Right. Right.
All of a sudden they go, okay,
They
thanks.
snap out of it.
They
Yeah.
snap out of it. Instead of you seeing they're screaming, could be with a boss. They're freaking out. Maybe they had a lot of pressure from above on them too. And all of a sudden they're screaming at you. Instead of like acting like a child and covering in the corner and being scared like mommy's yelling, you can just say, okay, what's going on? What can I do? I'm here.
Right.
I'm here to help.
Right.
You know, it just diffuses a situation. And diffusing a situation is something that we all need to learn. Being that I talk to dead people, I've spoken to a lot of women that were murdered by men. Okay. And every one of them has told me, I did not diffuse the situation. He was drunk, he was crazy, and I went crazy back. And if they had just said to him, look, I'm sorry, you know, I'm sorry about this situation, let's talk about it, or, calmed it, they would be alive. So that's
Not that they were condoning that, but
no,
just
not that they
that
were condoning it, but
uh,
they knew at that moment
they
their response to rage back at a person who's going nuts was not the right.
escalated it.
Their
And
message to women is just get out of there,
right, live
call the
another
police.
day. Live another
Call the
day.
police. Get
Yeah.
out of there and call the police.
Right.
Do not think you're gonna outrage a
Solve this
person
or
who's
right.
being crazy at that
That's
moment.
right.
If someone's
That's
in a fit of jealous rage, you don't start taunting them. You don't start throwing salt on that because it is not going to work. So, diffusing situations, that's an extreme diffusion. Okay. But we always have to see, can I say something that will diffuse it? Or do I have to say something that's going to make it worse?
that's
You
right.
know, it's a
You
choice. It's always a choice.
It's always a choice until it's not, and then
Right.
you have no more choices. But while you have choices, try to make the better ones.
Exactly.
And you wrote something in the book. I wanted to bring this up with the conditional love versus unconditional. You write, at this stage of human evolution, most of us walking the earth plane right now have a great deal of experience dealing with the very watered down version of love, known as conditional love, and very little experience dealing with the pure form of love known as unconditional love.
Right.
So this is part of our
Evolution.
our human history.
It's part of our evolution to
Yes.
a higher love is an unconditional love. Okay. And
Mhm.
again, it doesn't mean you stick around and be abused. That's not what it means. It means that it's less judgmental. It's kinder. If you want to understand conditional love, read the Old Testament. God is a very bigoted, angry, judgmental, who will
Right.
have you gnashing your teeth. Okay. The New Testament tried to bring more of a love-based God there, more
Mhm.
unconditionally loving God. Okay. So in the, you know, fear-based things, I think, kept people in control. Maybe people were barbarians. Maybe you needed to make them terrified. But this is now, let's go to a higher love. What I found in my practice is that men can go to war, they can't go to love. They will go to Afghanistan 8 times rather than marry their soulmate. This is too scary for them. So we're more war based,
Wow.
more that energy. We have courage to that. It takes courage to love,
Right.
and it's the unknown territory. It's not space is the unknown territory. It is love is the
It's
new
love.
exploration. It is
Right.
the unknown territory that we all have to make a pilgrimage to, a
Oh,
journey to. So
that's
wherever
beautiful.
you are in your life, if you're in a toxic relationship, that is good. It's divine timing. You had lessons to learn. Let's bring it up to soulmate if we, bring it back up to soulmate if it was, or leave it. If you're in a soulmate relationship, don't take it for granted, maintain it. It's very easy to have it watered down. So, yes, this is the whole crux of the book, is that there's love and fear. Okay, fear is really conditional love. That's fear. Okay.
Right. Right.
Whereas true love is the unconditional. Okay. It is something that, and very few of us love totally unconditionally. I really don't. I wish I could say I'm totally really, I don't. I wish I could say 1,000%. Okay. It's hard. It's hard to do that. But each day we're striving to be a better version of us, a better version of loving unconditionally. Okay. We're not going to get it all right. That's why there's reincarnation. It may take us a couple of more lifetimes to really get this.
Mhm.
But the more that we can go to that unconditional love, less judgment, kinder, saying
Mhm.
things kinder, and being respectful of each other. That's what conditional love didn't teach us. Conditional love is very abusive, and it
Mhm.
really is transactional. If you do what I want, you get this. If you don't do this, you don't get that. It's
Right.
always that.
Right.
And children
Right.
were raised a lot with that in the past,
Sure.
where
Sure.
it was, if I did good, mommy loved me. If I did bad, she didn't love me. They didn't kind of make it clear that your actions are separate from who you are. Your
That's right.
action was not good, but you're good. There's
Right.
a
That's right.
difference, because we don't want to have all that shame basedness that makes people then not know how to love. When you're shame based, it's really hard to love. And so that self love is something we need to come to, that loving ourselves and being kind to ourselves and forgiving ourselves if we've done less than perfect things, and learn from that. Because if you can't really love yourself, you're never going to be able to love another human being.
People, they say that the things you hear theoretically that start to resonate with the experience are you can't love another person until you love yourself. It
Right,
ain't going to happen.
right,
And you know that fear is the opposite of love, not hate.
right,
The
exactly.
opposite is fear.
Fear.
If you look at fear for what it is, and like, what's that impulse?
Right.
Um, and say, yeah, if I'm, oh, where is he? And, oh, who's he with? And, oh, or
Yeah.
what's she doing? I mean, that's not the right, it's not the right impulse.
No, it's not. And so basically, it's a lifetime study, love. Okay. It starts from the moment we're born, and it will continue to the moment we die. And
That's
that's
a
the
great way
whole
of putting it.
We're going to just always strive for a higher love. And once you have that soulmate connection deeply with one person, you begin capable of hooking the soul of every human being. And that's what you want to do. All souls are beautiful, egos are horrific. Okay. That's what you want to do. Let's hook people's souls. And the best way to hook a soul is laughter. It's very hard for someone to be mad at you or mean to you when you have made them laugh.
Hmm.
So if you can diffuse a situation that seems pretty toxic with a joke, a laugh, and they laugh, all of a sudden you have shifted energy.
Hmm.
Let's strive it, hooking our people's souls, getting in touch with souls, And it becomes really amazing when you have soulful connections with every person. And even as a playwright, the one thing I learned is dialogue without soul is not dialogue. You want to be writing dialogue from the soul.
Mm,
Of course, you have people's egos dialogue, but eventually the best dialogue comes from
I'm
the soul,
sure. Sure.
deeper, from a deeper
Absolutely.
place. And that
Hmm.
is something that when you go to soul, all your interactions, whether it's 5 minutes in the beauty parlor to, 2 minutes here, will be soulful interactions,
Mm,
something that has kindness to it and a little bit of love. And those little kind words go a long way to make someone's day better. You don't know what their day might have been like. And you
right.
just said a kind word that might have made them change their mind,
Shifted the energy
shifted the energy. And that's what it's shifting energies, higher energy or lower energy. It's your choice
every moment.
every moment. And if
Yeah.
someone's low energy, you have to figure out how to deal with it, you know, get away from it if you can, but deal with it and don't let it make you go lower.
Go
That's
lower
so
too. We've been talking with Cindi Sansone-Braff about her book, Grant Me a Higher Love, how to go from the relationship in hell to the one that's heaven sent. It's a marvelous book. And I think it's not just theory, or I mean, what Cindi does is grounds it in the Greek love, ancient Grecian idea of love, love in the age of Aquarius, the ladder of love, the types of love, gives you really a framework after framework of how to look at this thing. That is not mysterious. It's a science. So it can be looked at scientifically. And also exercises, evaluation, pop quizzes. So it's a great book. And you can go to grantmeahigherlove.com. Before we leave, Cindi, you're involved in so much and you got a new book coming out. You want to talk about that and
Oh, yeah,
everything
that
that you're
one,
doing?
Confessions of a Reluctant Long Island Psychic. Okay, that
Yeah.
title kind of says it all. Um, for me, I'm intelligent and skeptical, like my clients are all intelligent, and I'm skeptical. So for me to do this, is always am I questioning? Is it real? Is it, so it's a fun book to write. It's also a very difficult book to write because it's more personal. In Grant Me a Higher Love, there's not much personal about me in the book. In Why Good People Can't Lead Bad Relations, there's a little bit personal, but not much. This is more personal and it's a little more painful to write. It's a little harder to do. And I'm not so comfortable with all of that. But, some people want to know, how did I become a psychic? So the book kind of says, I became a psychic much older in life at 41. So it kind of contradicts that people think, they were psychic from the day they're born or whatever. So I'm just trying to show people you can have more psychic ability than and can cultivate it later on in life, and that we might have gifts we've never explored. So that's why I talk about how I became a psychic. And then it's a book, I call it a memoir and a seminar, because it's stuff about how you can hone your psychic abilities and things like that. And there's some readings that I've done for people in there, and my clients have written some of their experiences with it in the book. So it's kind of another, like, let me not die and have all this information not out there. Like, people might want to know about this.
Mhm.
I think I'm a little more unique because most of the books that I've read, that people had it since they were a child, like their experiences were there. But I tend to say my childhood was so scary. I don't think the universe wanted to give me anything else that might have scared me. Let's just deal with the scary living people. And, let's not give her ghosts or, demons now.
Yeah,
It would
let's
be too
not
much,
not
you
go to
know.
another plane just yet.
And I probably
Um,
would have bypassed neuroses and gone right to psychotic with that. So I think they just, say, put that at bay. So I think that's a book that, I've been working on, and it's in the final edits, which is always the torturous part. The edits are,
sure, sure.
that's when you look at something you've written for 2 years and say, I wrote that sentence and been reading this for 2 years. Like,
Who knew?
who knew? You know, like, did I go to grammar school? Like, you know, and, and that spelling error has been there for 2 years. Like, really?
And I just saw it. Yeah.
I just saw it.
I, you know, well, I feel like we could talk for hours and hours. And so I hope you will come back.
Oh, I would
And
love to come back. We always have fun. And for the people who are not familiar who Parker is, she's a brilliant director, writer, human being, humanitarian. She's always helping everybody, but not in a dysfunctional rescue way, in a real way. She's helping people that really need help, getting clothes and warmth and food. So she's amazing. And watch her. She has plenty of plays that she's doing all the time. And they're there for you. And she's keeping us connected during COVID, right? You have kept us connected.
thank you for saying that, Cindy. It's certainly been part of my health to be connected to amazing playwrights and actors and creatives. That's been how I've gotten through the past year too. We do have a play tonight, actually. Thank you for all you said. Called Two Rooms, and it is about a love that is tested by war and the Lebanese hostage crisis. And the word that comes to my mind, and if you see the play, you'll know, is devotion.
Wow.
And a love that is tested over, one man is held hostage for years, and his wife. It's a beautiful play. So devotion, and I think that's a great word. You are certainly devoted to being there for your clients and for the people on the other side, and for the people who are struggling, and for the people who don't want to repeat a toxic relationship, and the people who want to go to the higher love, up the ladder.
Right, exactly.
So
And
thank you.
and thank you so much for having me. And happy Valentine's Day to everybody.
And again, I'm going to put it out one more time. It's grantmeahigherlove.com. Cindy's has a radio show, podcast, multiple books, and does psychic readings. And so reach out to her. If something resonated today, and I'm betting it did, reach out to her and find out how to get a reading with her or get her books, because I think you will be quite happy that you did. So thank you again.
Bye for now. Thanks for having me.
I'll see you in a couple of weeks, I hope. Bye, everyone. Stay warm. Happy Valentine's Day.